Good morning. Hello, everyone. How are you? This elf with the towering hat spent way too much time fooling around with interesting AI tools last night. It was up till like 12:30 a.m. Slept all the alarms and then woke up this morning at like 8:30. So we are on the struggle bus, but it is by my own doing. But we're still here, looking to execute, and looking to go over all the important stock news, notes, and information. Right. As I say here, each and every day, the world evolves. We got to evolve along with it. So I'm just putting in my time, my extra hours, making sure that I am also keeping up with the world around us. Playing my part in all this, being a cog in the machine. But welcome to the Tuesday, December 19th edition of the pre-market prep session. Here's our daily session. We go over the news, right? The notes, the economic data, certain trade ideas, economic outlook. We go over all of that each and every morning in order to get you prepped and ready to go for the market day. So now a lot of what we're seeing is kind of just formality of movements being fulfilled, but we've got a lot of things that are paying, which makes for a nice pre-Christmas week. Um, so it's really more so less like directly focusing on the market and more so just allowing the market to do its thing and fulfill the looks that we already have going on. Right, we've got a video with this daily bull flag headed to test breakout. We've got Tesla with this weekly downtrend break and weekly bull flag that it's looking to go up and test breakout for, and also eventually fire. We've got Google, right? We've got all these different stocks that are doing their thing, that are pushing. We've got a number of long-term positions as well that are simmering, right, but look great. A lot of them already started moving. Banks, right? BAC, SoFi, Citigroup. So we're in beautiful positions, right? We're in great prospects across the board, and the hard work is done. Now it's pretty much just making sure that you go through, take profit when appropriate, but not look to overload yourself with positions in the market. There's no reason to be in 10 different positions, 20 different positions. You want to be in a few quality positions and let it go, right? Be in them short term, be in them long term. If you have money that you can add to those positions, right, continue to do that. You can also, average up on long term positions and just have it end up being a huge position, right? If you look at something that has a huge monthly or weekly falling wedge, and you start a position now, you can, put that on kind of recurring deposit. If you have Robinhood and then on Thinkorswim, you can just do it yourself. But even if you deposit, $50 a week or $60 a week, depending on the size of the contract, right? We're likely talking about one of the smaller contract swings that I've talked about over the course of the past 2 weeks, like PAC, but you could go and just add to that, right, weekly, so that you look, and as that goes up, you're averaging up, averaging up, averaging up, and now you've got a large, sizable swing position that you can have cooking for you. It's almost um, like normal investing, but just on steroids, because you have the leveraged return of options, which is a beautiful thing, the eighth wonder of the world. So in terms of top news here, let's dive in. Make sure you throw those ones in the chat signifying your intention to get 1% better, even though I'm running on little sleep, which is, again, all my fault. I'm still intending to get 1% better out here. And the fact that I'm running on little sleep was because I was working, on my AI prompt skills to make sure that I'm remaining 1% better each and every day. Make sure you throw that in the chat, right? Because without intention, there ain't no reason to come up to the bat, right? Come up to the plate and swing because you don't know if you can do it again. So top news, steal of a deal in an industry-shaking transaction announced just before WSB was published on Monday. Nippon Steel of Japan agreed to acquire U.S. Steel, whose ticker is X, for a whopping $14.9 billion. The all-cash transaction at $55 per share represented a 40% premium to the closing price of U.S. Steel on December 15th and sent the stock up 26% during the session to close at $49.59. Deep-pocketed Nippon hopes the acquisition will expand its global footprint at a time when many Japanese firms are looking for international growth as their country deals with a shrinking population crisis. Recall that the steel industry has also been in focus following the approval of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which is expected to boost U.S. steel demand for investment in bridges, railways, and other projects due to Buy American provisions in the legislation. Are we still buying American if it's a Japanese-owned company, or is it considered American because it's located here and they employ American employees? I don't know. But I feel like at some point you should kind of be required to change the name because you're no longer US Steel. You're kind of Japan Steel. Money talks. A bidding war for U.S. Steel ensued in the summer after the company rejected an unsolicited 7.3 billion cash and stock bid from rival Cleveland Cliffs, ticker CLF. To note, that deal was less than half of what Nippon would pay for the company only 4 months later. Looks like holding out worked for them. U.S. Steel will go on to announce a strategic review process and invited several more offers, including those that were reportedly made by ArcelorMittal, ticker MT, and US-based Nucor, ticker NUV. It's not without controversy. Having a 122-year-old iconic American steel giant be taken over by a Japanese producer is prompting unions and politicians to speak up. The United Steelworkers are urging regulators to fully scrutinize the transaction and determine if the combination, quote, serves the national security interests of the United States and benefits workers. This could be important because, as you see, right, the SEC, the FTC, all these different regulatory agencies have been striking down deals left and right. So just because a deal has been struck does not mean that that deal always goes through. Because just yesterday we were talking about how another deal, right, that was struck down by the regulatory agencies in power. So let's see. A number of U.S. senators are also voicing opposition, like Pennsylvania's John Fetterman, who represents one of the most important states involved in the American steel industry. It's absolutely outrageous, he declared. Steel is always about security, both our national security and the economic security of our steel communities. I'm committed to doing anything I can do using my platform and my position to block this foreign sale. Fellow Democratic Senator Bob Casey of Pennsylvania has also expressed his disapproval, as well as Republican Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio, showing some bipartisan support against the foreign takeover. I kind of don't like this deal going through either. I feel like, again, we're going through this overarching trend of protectionism where everybody needs to be able to produce their own things. And if that's the largest producer of domestic steel, I don't know if that's the case or not. But if it is, I feel like we need to keep that American owned because if wartime occurs, you don't know what's going on. You don't want U.S. Steel pumping out steel for Japan when it should be pumping out steel for the U.S. I feel like that's kind of a no-brainer. In terms of Seeking Alpha commentary, quote, the management teams at both firms believe there will not be any major regulatory issues at play. Obviously, this is something we'll have to watch, wrote Seeking Alpha investing group leader Daniel Jones, who gave U.S. Steel a strong buy rating just days before the big buyout. Quote, even if the deal were to fall through, I think there is a decent chance that another buyer could step in and pick up United States Steel at a price that is high enough to result in little to no downside from where the stock is currently trading for. And that's really the big thing for traders and investors, right? Is that whoever buys it, will it be for near the same price or will it cause the stock to just gap down after it's gapped up already? That will have to wait to be seen. But all those, their acquisition was something that we talked about. CLF, Cleveland Cliffs, had submitted an offer. Kind of one of those things where it's like, look, they're going to get bought out. If you want to just go ahead and buy calls a year out on it, that could work. It did end up working, right? So if you're one of those people that took advantage of that, awesome. If not, it is what it is. Another stock gapped up. We'll just wait on the stocks that we have on our docket, right, and pay attention to those. In terms of tech news, calling time, Apple will soon halt sales of its watch models in the U.S. amid ongoing patent disputes with Massimo, ticker MASI. Wow, Apple will no longer sell its Watch Series 9 and Watch Ultra 2 from December 21st to comply with an International Trade Commission ruling on intellectual property dispute pertaining to watches with a blood oxygen feature. That hasn't stopped bumper forecasts from being assigned to the tech giant. Apple is expected to be the first stock to hit a $4 trillion market cap by the end of 2024, according to Wedbush, given the pace of growth and monetization. Apple had hit $3 trillion this year, making it the world's most valuable company. I think that's very important. Apple has been making a concerted effort in order to diversify away from just the iPhone. And part of that was the watches and putting more time, effort, blood, sweat, and tears into the watches. And now they're facing a patent dispute. So, again, I think Apple's always going to be okay, but that could be something that does affect Apple in terms of price action, right? When you've got something like the watch. I'm not sure how much of their revenue that the watch accounts for. I know that different parts of Apple's business are huge. Obviously, given the fact that it's a $3 trillion company. One thing that I kind of throw out there often in terms of anecdotes is the fact that just AirPods alone, is bigger than Starbucks, the company. So, a lot of people say, "Oh, 3 trillion, like that's a lot," but I don't understand. Yeah, one portion of what Apple sells is more valuable than the whole business of Starbucks, which is just crazy to think about. So the watches still do probably represent a significant, portion of revenue. So I'll be excited to see kind of how that all shakes out. In terms of our next, not much news going on here today. In terms of our next headline here, trade news, international response. It's official. The U.S. and 9 other countries have formed a naval task force to protect commercial vessels sailing the Red Sea from Houthi attacks. Ships have been damaged, safety threatened, forcing companies to stop their vessels from entering the Bab el Mandeb Strait. Under the new mission, military ships in the region will be positioned in a way that would provide umbrella protection to as many vessels as possible. The world's biggest container shipping lines halted shipping through the Red Sea over the weekend, while oil major BP joined them on Monday as freight rates and additional war risk premiums pushed higher. Now, in terms of today's market, in Asia, Japan were up 1.4%, Hong Kong down 0.8, China up 0.1, India up 0.2, London down 0.1, Paris down 0.2, Frankfurt up 0.3, the Dow up 0.1, S&P up 0.1, Nasdaq up 0.1, so basically flat. Gold flat, Bitcoin up 4.7% to 40, almost 43K. What else do we have going on here? Today's economic calendar, nothing too important. Again, if you haven't watched yesterday's session, make sure you go over that. That lays out the groundwork for the week, right? The exposition, the background, all the information that's key to laying out really how you're going to trade during the week is from yesterday. So if you haven't, make sure you check out that session. And then finally, here our rapid fire stock news rundown. Adobe, ticker ADBE, Figma terminate merger amid regulatory hurdles. Again, right? Another merger that fell apart because of regulatory issues. It is so hard for a company to buy another company now. That is probably the biggest difference between the last administration and this administration. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I don't care. I'm not a company out here buying other companies. But it's just important to note that if you are basing stock decisions off of these acquisition rumors, don't. Because even when it's announced, this company's buying this one, this company's buying this one. I don't know any of those that have actually gone through, right? It was like JetBlue, which was buying Spirit and all this other stuff happening. I don't know any of those that are actually going through. BOJ, Bank of Japan, maintains ultra loose monetary policy and dovish guidance. Fed's daily rate cuts appropriate in 2024 as inflation cools. I'll be dropping a reel about that today, so please check that out. Show it love. Very, very important information. I love it. This is probably one of the coolest little tidbits of information in terms of like helping you as a human headed into 2024. So Kenvue notches legal win over Tylenol's alleged links to autism. Wow, man. Dang, that's crazy. I did not hear anything about that. Google, ticker GOOGL, to pay $700 million to settle Play Store lawsuit. Southwest Airlines, ticker LOVE, LUV, fined $140 million over 2022 holiday meltdown. Google finally started getting moving yesterday, going ahead and paying us. Google had looked good last week, but it was just so lazy. And it really just started moving like a firework yesterday, shooting up into the skies and then translated to some nice green there for our portfolios. Texas signs bill for arresting migrants who enter U.S. illegally. In phase to cut 10% of workforce, stop manufacturing at 2 sites. And then Tennessee sues BlackRock, ticker BLK, over misleading ESG strategies. So that'll be all for today, right? Today, December 19th, 2023. As always, if you enjoyed any of this content, you enjoyed what we had going on, you enjoyed the tree edition that I have going on back there, just show love to the content on Instagram, right? That's all I ask. Make sure that you share this with other people. Friends don't let friends stay broke. Again, right now, Tesla, NVIDIA, Bank of America, SoFi, what else, right? All of these different stock tickers are paying us. So especially during the holiday season, this is something that people need. So make sure that you're not out here not sharing a good word to other people when it's something as easy as making a few clicks, going on to do the rest of your holiday duties, and coming back to more cash. It's a pretty nice setup, right? And that's something that I feel like people, especially that look like me, right, and some of you watching, need to be privy to that information because it's not something that's broadcasted in our community at all. And my biggest mission in life is to absolutely change that, because if we never know what's available, we can never seize what's available. So let's all do our part to make sure that everybody knows what's available, help them seize what's available, and of course, do that ourselves. Because at the end of the day, that's all we should worry about, putting food on the table for the ones that we care. Right? Everybody have a great rest of the day. Sending all love. Let's crush it today in markets. And I'll see you back here tomorrow morning for our next pre-market prep session. Have a good one.